So, as I said before, the human body likes to be between 7.35 and 7.45 on a pH scale, optimally at 7.4, which makes the body at least a little bit basic. So, when it comes to interactions with other molecules, what drugs we're pushing, as well as the pathophysiology, which means the things that go wrong with the function of the body, we have to keep in mind that a lot of these things occur to how acidotic, meaning how much the body is being pushed to an acid state, versus alkalotic, when the body is being pushed to a more basic state. So, examples of this may be a DKA or diabetic ketoacidosis. And this is essentially when you have a diabetic patient, so sugar C6H12O6. So this is the glucose molecule, C6H12O6. And obviously if a patient is diabetic, they have problems with efficiently using insulin. So for insulin, we're going to use, let's see, a little vacuum kind of mechanism here. And for the glucose, we're going to use little round guys with top hats. We'll use that. It's not going to make a lot of sense right now, but it will in a second. So we got our glucose guys, and we have our vacuum guys. So in a patient with DKA, the pancreas can no longer pump out enough insulin, in type 1 at least. So the top hat guys are just free floating inside your bloodstream, spiking it to a degree where now this number, the 7.4, pushes and becomes acidotic, going toward the 7.1, even 6, or even lower, such that the body now doesn't know how to control itself. So there's a couple of things you could do, and we spoke about it today in class on the paramedic side. So obviously we have insulin. So this is kind of like the reservoir for that vacuum. And the inefficient insulin. So if you see here, you have an N sign next to the vacuum, so that's our inefficient insulin. And we have the vacuum bag, which is the insulin that we're now pushing. So usually DKA patients, it's also called a diabetic emergency. You have just way too much glucose. So you're obviously not going to give them more glucose. You're not going to give them glucose as the generic name that you carry around. That's one thing. So another example he gave is like if you're at the gym, for instance, you're pumping a lot of iron. Got a big strong guy here. You're pumping a lot of iron at the gym. We zone into a muscle cell, or at least the muscles themselves, because we'll learn more about musculoskeletal system a lot later. you keep pushing, you're increasing lactic acid. As denoted by the name, lactic acid is now making your body more acidotic instead of alkalotic, or in the neutral range where it's the 7.4 pH. So now it's like 7.1, it's pushing 6.2 to the point where the body now has to react to that. So what the body's going to do is use what he talked about, which was positive and negative feedback. So in this case, as a paramedic, unless you're dealing with a guy who's totally flexed out, meaning that he's in dire straits when it comes to nutrition and getting the proper mechanisms of the body going, you're not really going to be dealing with a guy that's working out. But what you need to know is that his body is, one, sending a signal from the brain to the muscle cells themselves saying, hey, wake up. He needs to continue pushing his body, but he needs a new fuel source. So now it goes from C6H12O6, which is a sugar molecule. Now it's going into fat, so lipid, if you want to be technical in terms of micromolecules and things like that. And as he talked about, there are ketones that are released as a result. So that's when the body goes into negative feedback. So now it tells the body, stop, we have a new source of energy. So that's what's really important when it comes to now neutralizing, or at least getting the pH back to the 7.4-ish range, if that makes sense. So the next thing we need to really pay attention to is how anatomy, physiology, and homeostasis and the essential parts of life kind of coexist with each other. So you have your nutrients you get from food and all that stuff. I'll make it like a glass so that it's a little just simpler to draw out here. You have nutrients being in the form of like proteins. You have your lipids, you have your carbs, and you have your vitamins and minerals. So that's like, even if you're coming off the street and you don't know anything, it's the basic essential nutrients of the body that's required for life. So just for us to function properly, we need certain vitamins, certain minerals, certain proteins, fats, etc. in different parts of the body. You're gonna also need proper bone structure. So for your bones at least, I'm gonna just draw this little looking bone here. That's responsible for locomotion. It's responsible for integrity of position. It's also important in making calcium ions, of course, contributing to bone density itself, contributing to proper red blood cell production that's found in your bone marrow. Also, believe it or not, but your bones actually give you